Boruto's omnipotence didn't just make Sasuke go away from Sarada, it didn't just take away Boruto from her, it didn't just make her undergo threats from the villagers like we discussed earlier this week, or at least we should have by the time you guys are seeing this. It didn't just bring a lot of heat on her mother Sakura, and it didn't just result in Sarada's home being trashed by the villagers. Upset, she was supporting the killer Naruto and openly beefing with who their memory said was Naruto's son Kawaki. For omnipotence, public humiliation wasn't enough, because during the time skip, Sarada is now confirmed by Mikio Ikimoto. In the new Q&A that was released to hold fans over while Boruto's manga is on break in August, we learned that she lost her most direct connection to Boruto, and even worse, it was via betrayal of those who are close to her. During the time skip, Sarada was the one that briefly mentored and began to train Himawari, Boruto's younger sister, until Sarada's own friends, led by Chocho, stepped in and told Himawari stay away from Sarada. The cruelest part is that Himawari was one of the only people in the village at that point in time who had been close to latching on to the truth about omnipotence. She wanted to stand beside her, believe in her, support her. But, as Momoshiki warned, those immune to omnipotence suffer the most, and this gave Sarada her suffering a new layer that would rightfully make the pain and isolation she felt the last 3 years sting all the more. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explain video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, takes a look at some of the new information we got via Ikimoto that should make you view Chocho's conversation with Sarada in the hospital a lot differently now, as well as why Himawari was so desperate to heal Sarada and to try to speak to Boruto at the end of the Mamushi fight, because Naruto's little girl has quietly been piecing together the truth and knows the connection with Sarada's loyalty to Boruto and Himawari's own refusal to believe Boruto killed Naruto, despite her apparent brother Kawaki telling her otherwise. Himawari knows that something is not right. As previously stated, this information comes to us directly from Mikio Ikimoto through the bonus Q&A released during Boruto's August month break. Repeating this since last time I did a Q&A on Ikimoto that he occasionally does to do a bunch of lore dumps. We had people confused, even though I literally say in the intro where the source came from. The craziest thing that we can take away from this is that for a brief moment in time, Sarada's pleas were dangerously close on landing, and had she been able to spend more time with Himawari, the daughter of Naruto, it not only would have done more for her peace of mind, but having the daughter of Naruto on your side when you're openly beefing with the son of Naruto, Kawaki, who is saying Boruto killed both of his parents, it would have been enough to do the very thing that Ada said was required when it came to people learning the truth about omnipotence. You need new memories, you need new experiences. They create anchor points for a person to hold on to, because simply telling them that their memories have been swapped will not work, due to the nature of how omnipotence functions. Omnipotence explained video will be linked in the description box, so I'm not going to explain that here. Already did a whole video on that. A young Himawari was listening and watching everything during a time where trauma for her would have been at an all-time high, and the person she chose to side with initially wasn't the person that she remembers to be her older brother, that being Kawaki. Instead, she chose Sarada. It's even crazier when you remember that she was the one who stumbled across the chairs being overturned and the broken picture frame at her place where her parents were said to be murdered by Boruto, and there were signs of a struggle there. That in of itself is huge, but the fact Himawari believed in Sarada enough that it pushed her to want to take up ninja training so that she could help support Boruto shows how far Sarada's words had gotten with Himawari. We know Sarada handed out photos of baby Boruto being held by Naruto. We know Sarada was in open arguments for 3 years over this. We know that she was screaming at people, if Kawaki's really Naruto's son, why is he a cyborg? What happened to Momoshiki? Why does he have Ishiki's chakra? Every time Sarada was standing around saying, I am surrounded by idiots, Himawari wasn't pressing the muffin button like everyone else. She was looking around and realizing that she was in need of an adult, and then realizing Sarada through her actions was basically saying she is an adult. But right when Himawari approached Sarada to begin her training, Team 10 stepped in and whisked her away, leaving Himawari internally saying crap baskets. This makes you look back at chapter 1 in a much different light. Now that you have this context, it really should hit harder. Himawari wasn't training with Team 10 necessarily by choice. They were a means to an end. Her first choice was Sarada, which it makes sense. If you want to go stronger, you want to have someone regarded as being one of the stronger people in your generation take up your training. No shade at Team 10, but there's a massive gap between the manga versions of Team 10 and Sarada at that point in the story. It also makes you look at Himawari's interactions with Team 10 in the time skip differently. She had her head down in chapter 1, like a little kid getting caught doing something that she knew was wrong. She said she knew that she would be scolded if she told the truth, that she wanted to become a ninja to help Boruto. The members of Team 10 did not look pleased with her, and she felt the need to apologize for following her heart, and she came across timid for a moment when she was being pressed on it, and then she found the courage of her conviction to say she didn't think that Boruto killed her parents. Her words, they cut deeply enough that Shikadai was still holding it against her, calling her a fool when he was speaking to Shikamaru in the Hokage office before the Mamushi battle. Her memories are altered, but Sarada's words, they impacted her, and Himawari's own heart was telling her something different. She remembered Boruto risking his life to save her and Naruto. It was actually Kawaki, but that's not what her memory told her. But more than that, it was those very altered memories that she was clinging to, because she saw a side of her adopted brother that nobody else saw that was not in the Uzumaki household. She knew what we know. Kawaki, and by extension because of the Omnipotence swap, Boruto would never harm Naruto. Himawari understood that. Had Team 10 not stepped in, think about how powerful that dynamic would have been. Himawari's memories were altered, but Sarada knew the truth. Between training Himawari, her working on her every day, poking holes in her doubts, would have eventually led to Himawari stumbling across her own anchor, the same way that Kashin Koji did with his 10 Directions visions, Amato did with this ninja tech being found in Kawaki, Sasuke did by seeing Sarada awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan pleading for Boruto, and Shikamaru did when he saw Boruto behaving in a way that did not directly reflect what his memory said, lined up with what Sarada said, and then he heard Amato's confession and he said, wait a second, something ain't right. When it comes to fighting Omnipotence, you have to let people discover their anchor. Training and mentoring Himawari was also Sarada stepping up for Boruto when you look at it from her perspective as a character. In her mind, she failed him during Omnipotence. It was part of what led to her psychological breakdown when she awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Language is very important. Go back and look what she said in chapter 80. She said it's not fair that Boruto has to carry these burdens alone. While she did send Sasuke to save Boruto, she was now watching everyone call her father a traitor, and she and her mother were being dogged for it daily. However, in standing there with Himawari during this time, and training her to grow stronger, and eventually helping her see the truth, she would have been maintaining a connection to Boruto and doing right by Boruto. She failed him once, she would not fail him again by doing right by his sister in this post-Omnipotence world, which is exactly why Omnipotence had to make her suffer in this way. It's one thing for Team 10 to step in, it's another thing for Chocho to be one of the ones stepping in and arguably the one taking the lead. Chocho was the first person who we ever saw Sarada directly bond with in manga format via Naruto's epilogue manga volume that Masashi Kishimoto drew in 2015. Which to Boruto fans, you'll know that as the Shin Uchiha arc. Chocho pulled Himawari away with Team 10, took on her sparring directly, and we know that there was a rift with Chocho and Sarada based on what was said when they were in the hospital, and Sarada would have been cut by this, learning that Himawari would be watching movies with Chocho during this time, something that we also got confirmation of here, where Himawari would be getting into dramas. It is different when you realize that in a non-Omnipotence world, that would have been Sarada and Chocho. Those two characters, Sarada and Himawari, they needed each other. Himawari wasn't choosing Sarada to just teach her how to throw a kunai. It was her open loyalty to Boruto, which holds even more weight when you remember Sarada openly idolized Naruto. At one point, she even said she wished that Naruto was her father. So in the eyes of everyone, she was sticking up for the person who murdered her idol. Himawari, being the first affected person to attempt to come to her side, was likely the first moment Sarada didn't feel truly alone in the village by that point. Everyone else, we will be told in chapter 1, had moments where they were affected by Omnipotence, but they got close to figuring it out, and then Omnipotence won out in the end. Himawari could have been there with her had it not been for Team 10. To be clear, I don't agree with people bashing Team 10. That's part of why I wanted to make this video. They're not the villains here. If anything, this situation works because everyone involved believes they're doing the right thing. That is why you have heard me repeatedly say Boruto as a story with this Omnipotence plotline is relying very heavily on the writing concept of dramatic irony. We as the audience know things that characters in universe don't know. Team 10, as well as people like the elders, they are all behaving based on the perception of things that came from their altered memories. If you take a moment and set your attachment to whoever your favorite characters are, set it aside, you'll see Ikimoto high-key is trolling the first major lesson that Naruto's manga was teaching us. A shinobi must see through deception. The whole ninja world can't see through omnipotence, and the lie that Kawaki told afterwards, despite the fact someone like Sarada is shoving the truth right in their faces. This should not be a complex concept to grasp, but there are a lot of people that, based on what I've seen, they are struggling to understand the omnipotence effects. So go back and look at what happened before omnipotence. When Kawaki sealed Naruto and Hinata away, everyone knew something had happened involving Kawaki. Naruto's fate was not completely confirmed yet. When Kawaki was asked directly more than once, he gave a hostile answer that led people fearing the worst, that he did indeed kill Naruto. Team 10, unbeknownst to all the adults that were there, they were listening to everything and they were under the impression Kawaki killed Naruto before Shikamaru even announced those words in chapter 80, after Kawaki took advantage of omnipotence and he forced Ada to tell that lie for him. Ada gave Kawaki exactly what he needed, a story. A story that played on the emotions of everyone. Boruto killed Naruto. And from Team 10's perspective, everything clicked into place and it confirmed their suspicions that they had before omnipotence. That is why Shikadai looked so hurt when he approached Boruto during their fight. They were among some of the first people who went after Boruto. Why wouldn't they? They believed Naruto was murdered. Boruto's fleeing the village, and Sasuke eventually helped him escape. They saw it with their own eyes. So fast forward into the time skip. Himawari wants to become stronger. She wants to be a shinobi, and she's seeking guidance from Sarada. From Team 10's perspective, Sarada spent years defending the guy who murdered Himawari's father, and they watched Sarada's own father help that murderer escape. So of course they're uncomfortable with that, especially Chocho. Remember, Chocho was Sarada's best friend. She knows Sarada better than anyone, and yet she knows what she saw with her own eyes. So imagine how disturbing Sarada's behavior looks from the filter of omnipotence. That is what you have to look at, the filter of omnipotence. Set aside how you feel about their characters and look at how they will be viewing things because of omnipotence. Your best friend has become obsessed with defending Boruto. She keeps insisting he's innocent, yet your memory of confronting Boruto during a time when you thought Boruto killed Naruto is going to make you look at her funny. She keeps defending Sasuke for helping Boruto escape. You saw Sasuke save Boruto when you guys had him cornered. She refuses to accept what everyone else considers to be the obvious reality, including Kawaki, who in their mind was Sarada's childhood friend and is the son of Naruto. So when you're Chocho, when you're Shikadai, when you're Inojin, and you're seeing Naruto's daughter gravitating towards her, Chocho isn't thinking, let's make Sarada miserable. That's not what's happening. That's not intentional. Instead, she's likely thinking, Himawari's been through enough. And that's what makes this tragic. The people hurting Sarada are not trying to hurt her. That is omnipotence in effect. Instead, they are trying to protect Himawari. If Himawari stood by Sarada in that moment, given how beloved Naruto was and still is, there's a strong chance that some of that blowback might have been pushed back onto Himawari, or rather, to clarify, if you're Team 10, you'd think that might have been a possibility. It's what makes Momoshiki's warning age very well. Those immune suffer the most. Ikimoto just revealed a rather heartbreaking and cruel reality for Sarada in this new Q&A, which to learn more about what happened to Sarada during the time skip, you'll want to click here on the left for that Sarada video, which should be up on the channel, and if it isn't, I'll update the link that you see on the screen in case this one is published before that one.